And then Ian went and hit 28 homers that year with the bat in the major leagues was nice. So he also proved that the performance side was there. And that was nice. And that's kind of what it's always been. I think people have always liked the aesthetic and the message and all that about Warstic. But over the last 6-7 years, it's been steady progress towards proving that the performance is there. And then the Jack White thing was also just a coincidental, strange. Ian was playing for the Detroit Tigers at the time. Jack White is from Detroit. Detroit is like his home. He's the lifelong biggest Tigers fan I've ever met.
And welcome back to Batter Up, the podcast where we swing for the fences in every episode. Today, we are joined by a special guest from Warstic. Warstic was established in 2011 and has spent the past 13 years making waves in the industry as one of the premier bat manufacturers in the world. We're fortunate enough to sit down and chat with the founder and CEO of Warstic, Ben Jenkins. Ben, thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're so incredibly thankful that you're coming on the show today. Warstic has blown up in the last couple of years. Why don't you give us a quick intro as to what you do at Warstic, how Warstic came about, a little background there.
Yeah. I'm hearing that a lot of it blew up in the last couple of years, which is kind of typical because I've been doing it 14 now. And it just goes to show you, if you want to go be an entrepreneur, go get it, because it's never as easy as they say it's going to be. So anyway, but yeah, man, long story short, to condense it, I was a college baseball player at Mississippi State, and behind the scenes, I was doing design and art and things like that. Kind of a weird mix growing up, but I was always kind of an athlete on one side and an artist and a designer on the other side. Did the college thing and did the pro ball thing for a very short minute, Phillies. And then in my 20s, I was really focused on put sports down, and I was a graphic designer. I ran a branding firm, never had a job, still haven't had a job. No one will hire me. That never worked out. So it just kind of freelanced until I got enough clients to, start my own practice. And I did that for a long time, let's say 10, 12 years, something like that. So really lots of practice at design and branding and learning a lot about marketing and all kinds of things. And then about, 12 years into that, I just got the itch to create a product of my own, and something that didn't involve clients, something that was just me making something that I put out to the world and see if people would, be interested in it and buy it. And I tried several things, but I really wanted to produce goods, things that I could hold and use. It made sense to me to go back to sports and specifically baseball, because when you do any business, you need to have enough passion for the thing in order to do all the hard work that it's going to take to, make it not just successful, but honestly, just to survive. Like, I've seen a lot of people get burned out because they just don't really care about, you can want to make money. That's easy. Everybody wants to make money, but you've got to have a passion for the thing itself. So, I started Warstic about 14 years ago, honestly, 2010, 11, as a really small, basic idea where you would go online and you would customize your wood bat, and we would make it and we'd ship it to you. Simple as can be, right? Did that for a long time because that was intended to be just a fun little side project that I do with my kids, and just an outlet for me. And so for 5 or 6 years, that's all it was trying to be, until 2016. Kind of started thinking, wow, this could actually be a potent brand in the industry based on what I saw. And I had the energy to do it, and decided to kind of take a run at making that more of a full-time commitment. And so I got investors, just enough to kind of give me the time more than anything to spend more time on it. It was as simple as that. And that was 2016. So it's almost kind of like the real start of the company at that point. Yeah. And then, the big play was moving beyond wood bats, which we're doing really well at the time, but moving into the metal bat space obviously was the big thing that people told us, don't do that. That's too expensive. It's too competitive. You're playing against some really big old companies. All of that, which kind of fires me up. It's kind of the point. I mean, as an athlete, like you always have that competitive nature, even when you're in business. It's the same thing. You just got to play with your mind instead of your body, So I always like that challenge to see what you can do, to go mix it up with people and see what you can do. So that was kind of the motivation, and it took a long time to, the first products you put out are never are never as good as, the second and third and fourth version. Right. So just a process of getting there. And then, so you're seeing that last, I would say 2 to 4 years is when people are really starting to see the cool design that has always been there. And that's the fun part. But the technology and the performance side starting to balance that out with that. And you put the two things together and you really have something there. And I think you've started to see that in the last 2 to 3 years, where performance has caught up with the design. So,
yeah, I mean, you could see that, you could see the passion that you have for it, the intent. There's purpose behind what you're doing there.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely transitioned into the bats. I want to talk to you as a designer first, because I think that's kind of where you come from at first.
For sure.
Where do you draw this inspiration for the graphics? I mean, the graphics look different than anything else you see on bats. Bats have a very traditional look to them. And like you said, you have these big brands in the industry that have done it for 100 plus years in a lot of cases. And their bats look like bats, like what we expect from bats. But Warstic bats don't do that. So where do you find your inspiration?
Yeah.
As someone that, I mean, you even grew up playing baseball, so you were in it, but you obviously see the world in a different way.
Yeah, I was just like everybody. I was an East and Black Magic guy in high school. Hit 12 homers with an East and Black, and I have all the respect in the world for something like that. Something iconic. And I think you learn as a designer, you can overdo things, and it never really is the most powerful statement. What you have to do as a good designer, which I had to learn over many years, is to create the most impact with the fewest pixels possible. Is kind of how I like to put it. Right. So there's sometimes, most of the time, simplicity actually plays, but you have to do it in a way where it's got energy to it. And it's kind of hard to explain what it is. But the good thing with me is this has always been a personal thing for me. Warstic was an opportunity to be personal with my art and to be personal with my aesthetic. I can't really explain it other than it's my personal aesthetic, because I'm doing it. I did it initially for myself, for my family. Why would I not just make a bat look like what I would want it to look like, right? So one of the big things that we do is one side of the bat really doesn't have graphics at all. It's got our War Stripes logo on it. And that's both, to me, aesthetically pleasing, and also as a hitter, I didn't like the idea of standing at the plate and showing someone my name. I like the idea of you need to be, obviously hitting is incredibly difficult, as everybody has stated. It was definitely difficult for me. And to stay in the moment as best you can, like, to me, it was like, what could the front of the bat look like to actually help the hitter calm down, be in the moment, focus. Crazy graphics everywhere, I don't know that they really contribute and help in that moment. Everyone's different though. But that was kind of the thought behind having a side of the bat that's really simple, and then having the logo.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's weird too, right?
Cut you off. I love that. As a former player myself, I remember I had teammates that would put like a little green dot
at
the base of their barrel.
It's like a focal point.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I've never even noticed that. Keep going. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the idea, was could the brand be one and the same with a focal point as far as the bat goes? And we teach kids, obviously kids is a big part of the audience, and we love to help kids. I don't like the idea that I'm going to tell a kid, hey, this bat is something magical that's going to make you a better hitter than you actually are. We kind of flip that. Our tagline is, it's not the weapon, it's the warrior, which is kind of a dumb tagline for a baseball bat company, because I really do like the idea that we want the kid to hit better by learning, by believing in themselves, by being in the moment. And so we teach kids that the logo is, one line is the past, one's the future, and it's all about being right there, right then. And that really comes down to being ready. Like, if you're not ready to hit, you're not going to hit. You have to believe you're going to hit. You have to be ready to hit all these things. So we really feel like we there was a mentality that we wanted to always talk about with Warstic, a conversation that we always wanted to have and learn, help kids learn. But it's one and the same with the aesthetics of the brand. And again, I think these are something that if this was a client project, they wouldn't have let me do these weird things, right? They were like, no, you have to have your name on the front of the bat, right? And that's the benefit of doing this for myself was I didn't have anything to lose either. I had a job. I was making a living. It's fine. But I wanted the art and expression of it to come out, but I wanted it to have a connection to performance, and hitting it so damn hard that I think any positive energy that's put into your system, maybe it's 1%, 2%, it can help. You know what I mean? Maybe you hit 315 instead of 300 because your posture is a little bit more aggressive and in attack mode. And we really believe in all those things. I mean, most of the time I still, I have kids in high school and I go help the other kids when they're in a slump. And usually when I get in the cage with them, it's not a mechanical adjustment. It's get into their head and see what's going on in your head before that pitch comes is usually the problem. I think the body, these athletes, they know their body actually knows it a hit if you get your mind out of the way and let it do it, So that's kind of a lot about the mentality of Warstic, always learning from failure, seeing failure as an opportunity to get better. I was a perfectionist. So the story of Warstic really is that I was a perfectionist. It's why I'm good at design.
Which is really hard in baseball. It's
really a horrible thing to be in baseball. It's absolutely combination. Yeah, it's a terrible thing. So I was a really good athlete. I could do all the physical things, but I couldn't get out my own way most of the time because I loved the play so much that I couldn't see any failure as anything, but I just didn't see it in a positive way, right? So very difficult on myself, hard on myself, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of Warstic's mentality is me understanding how much I could have enjoyed the game more if I had a better mentality. And maybe played longer, whatever. That's not super important, but, just enjoyed the game more is my hope with kids, and I kind of more tangibly see that now that I didn't see when I was 16, 17 years old. So I like it because it gives Warstic a purpose and a feel. There's more. It's more than just the goods. And the looks great is, to me, it's like, just because things perform well doesn't mean they shouldn't be beautiful. I don't like trashing up the world with anything. If I'm going to put an object in the world, I want it to complement it, to be pleasing to the eye and all that kind of stuff. Design is something that I really am passionate about, and I get excited about. If I create something that looks really cool, you get that energy from it. So but like I said, it's about not overdoing it, and I think we've done a good job with that. I mean, I think that it's just not a formula, but I've done Warstic so long, like, yeah, I can do it in my sleep now. If I'm coming up with a pickleball paddle or whatever it may be we're getting into the next bat, it kind of naturally knows what to do,
That's awesome. I love the idea of a design first former baseball player creating bats, and it's showing itself now. I think what you guys are doing there is fantastic stuff. And it's, I know you've been working hard for years on it, but it's coming into Limelight now. And I think people are taking notice for sure.
Yeah.
Before we dive deep into like kind of the weeds on bats here, you had mentioned gaining a couple investors there.
Yeah.
Around 2016. Now the two that I know of that were pretty notable there were former All-Star second baseman Ian Kinsler, which a lot of our listeners would be familiar with. But I think a lot of people would be pretty surprised to hear that Grammy Award-winning artist Jack White was also part of that. How did those two partnerships come about, or one big partnership come about?
I can't explain it any other way than the universe just made it happen. I could have never figured that out, planned that. In the process of me deciding, there is part of it where you take action and you move forward and you tell people what you're trying to do, and that's a vision. And then sometimes if you watch, the universe might put things in front of you, and if you're paying attention, you can connect the dots. But it was as simple as I had let people know I was ready to turn this into a real company. I needed some partners. I wanted them to be private. I wanted them to represent who we are. A friend of mine had met Ian Kinsler the week before I met him and said, would you want to meet this guy? And it's like, why not?
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong Texas Rangers fan. Um, and that sounded cool to me. And I met him, and I think we talked for 4 hours, and it was just like, we'd known each other forever, right? One of those, like, I like you, you like me, this is cool. Absolutely. Let's do this. And that wasn't that weird, right? Because
That would make sense. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
he's a major league baseball player, and he
he's in
absolutely,
Texas. Yeah.
yeah. And I never knew this at the time. And he couldn't represent all these things that I've already talked about, this mentality stuff, more than I couldn't have picked a better guy. I mean, he's just, his competency towards mental toughness is unreal. He is everything you'd want to be when it comes to mental toughness. And then the Jack White thing was also just a coincidental, strange. Ian was playing for the Detroit Tigers at the time. Jack White is from Detroit. Detroit is like his home. He's the lifelong biggest Tigers fan I've ever met. So he was a fan of Ian, and his business people had kind of reached out to us at one time about doing some cool fun wood bats for Jack and stuff. And so I knew he knew about it. For some reason, I mentioned that to Ian, and Ian goes, "Oh, I know that guy a little bit." And I was like, "Huh." But still, I kind of joked, "Hey, we should make him like the big investor, because that would be crazy and stupid." And then next week, we're meeting with him in Nashville, and then same thing. Like, we all three felt like we had known each other for years and years, and it just has been. I mean, what is that? 7, 8 years. We're best of friends. We text each other every day, just like you and your buddies might about anything else. And we watch baseball together on our phone. I mean, it's just, you're very lucky when you have partners that are always that supportive, because that can go wrong. I mean, you can get investors that are horrible to have. So I've been really lucky that they're just very supportive. They just believed in what I was doing and supported it. And then Ian went and hit 28 homers that year with the bat in the major leagues. Was nice. So he also proved that the performance side was there. And that was nice. And that's kind of what it's always been. I think people have always liked the aesthetic and the message and all that about Warstic. But over the last 6, 7 years, it's been steady progress towards proving that the performance is there. Because that's absolutely matters. I mean, these are built for, whether it's college baseball or Major League Baseball. I mean, the performance has to be there to be playing in the space that we're playing. So
yeah, they're performative tools. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
They
So
have a purpose to them. So yeah.
yeah, and so it's kind of cool, because if someone goes, "Why Jack?" I go, because he's one of the most genius artists that have walked the planet in the last
Why
100
not
years.
Jack? Yeah.
Yeah, because Warstic is that. It's like it's own thinking. It's not copying other people. It's original creative thoughts. And then Ian is performance. And you put the two together, they absolutely represent the two sides of what Warstic is when you boil it down to its components. It's those two things. It's performance meets creativity. And Jack's one, and I'll never be as creative as that guy, and I'll never be as high performance player as Ian, but I'm a good middle ground, and I kind of draw inspiration from them on the daily, like I do, especially Jack. I mean, I'm on any given day, once I wake up, I know Jack's already up and going, right? So it's like chasing a rabbit, right? Those are my muses. Those are my guys to keep me fueled all the time, to make them proud, honestly. And so it's really cool to be on this end of it, because 7 years ago when we did it, no one knew if it would really work, right?
Yeah.
And
but if you have Ian Kinsler and Jack White in your court, and you've got your drive and your design eye, like, I think there's a pretty good likelihood that things are going to go well.
We felt good about it, but man, I didn't have a bit. It's not like I had a business plan, right? I didn't have a business plan. They gave me, they gave me a good spot of money with no business plan, but they could feel it, right? And that's kind of how we are. We're going to feel our way through things and use our gut and our intuition. We love to keep ourselves nimble and flexible. And really the way this market is it's a good thing to be. You can't really super plan out 2-3 years down the road like you used to could a long time ago. So it's good to be nimble, is all I'll say. And we're very much that. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Now, focusing on you and Ian as former ball players. Now, will you guys get into the weeds about a bat? Like, will you guys hit them? Will you talk? Like, what do you focus on as former baseball players? And what does
Feel.
Ian bring to the table as a former all-star towards making these bats?
Well, I think it's a couple things. We always keep in mind that there's different kinds of hitters, and you should be the kind of hitter that you are suited to be and should work at that, not try to be someone else. That means when it comes to bats, there's pure power hitters, but it's a very small percentage of people. There's pure contact hitters. There's people in the middle. So we've always worked with, especially metal bats, to make sure we had options for all the different styles of hitter. That's always important. And then for us, and when it comes to the technology, Ian and I focus as hitters on the feel. We don't think like engineers. We work with our engineers to produce the feel that we're trying to get. So it's like we always have a good idea, and absolutely, he's hitting bats in the cage just like I am. It's anytime that prototypes come in, it's like fun day. Here we go. Let's hit the bats. And there's real feedback, but it's good because it's from a hitter's perspective. I can kind of see it as like a college, high school kid. And, we get kids involved too. I've got access to all kinds of high school players and college players. And then Ian's, man, his feel is unreal, what he can feel when he just picks up a bat, right? Like it's a whole different level of feel, things that I don't even notice, that he's just like, well, did you feel that? And I'm like, well, I do now. But his feel is unreal, right? I mean, it's world class. I mean, the guy hit 275 homers, but also like a great average hitter. He kind of was that guy. Yeah, leadoff guy. Just not to mention he's a Gold Glover. So when we developed our gloves, it was like really easy. Can I make a glove good enough for him to use? If not, we're not making it. So that was the meter. So he's very involved, especially since he retired. I guess it's been about 3 years. He loves to come in and just see what's going on and contribute, in every way, whether it's batting gloves, bats, batting, anything that we're producing. He's a really intelligent guy, despite being a baseball player. He's a super intelligent guy.
He sounds like the perfect ace to have up your sleeve.
He really is, because the other thing you shouldn't be surprised to learn this, but I didn't think about this when we became partners, but business is extremely hard. Someone's trying to kill you every day. Yeah. Especially in a competitive, I mean, it is gnarly. And business in a way is a constant problem solving. If you can see those problems as just opportunities like he does, when there are things that are challenging or stressful, he does come in the office and settle us down. He's like the old veteran in the locker room. He's like, it's going to be fine. Just going to chill. We're going to get through it. And he's a great calming. He's a good mentor to me in that way, because I'm wound the other way for sure. When problems come up, I'm like, go, go, go. What can we do? Which is good. You should take action, but you also can't control the controllables, right? There's a limit. Just like in baseball, there's things you can control and there's things you can work on and there's things you can't control. And you have to let them work yourself out. So he's always the old veteran coming in the locker room and getting us to chill and like get through it. And there's been plenty of occasions where that's been tremendously helpful. And I'm super thankful to have him in that regard, despite his, how good he is at baseball and all that kind of stuff. The leadership part is really even more important. So.